Thank you, Brian. A couple of short things you'll like hearing. Brian is a big music fan, but he can't stand sports. So first proclamation of 2024, sports analogies are back in vogue. And better news than that, I am not going to sing. First, I'd like to recognize some special guests. First, our kids that are here, daughters Rebecca and Courtney, son-in-laws Greg and Nick, and my son Will and daughter-in-law Aubrey here. Also, I'm proud to have my sister Lori and brother-in-law Greg here. And from our agency in Ocala, the guys that make this possible for me, Scott Williams, Drew Fabian, and Austin Little. My good friend, Tony Bouquet from the American College. Tony, thank you for helping us pay tribute to God and country. Two of the people I went through the chairs with in Florida, Mark Terralosi. Mark was my membership chair in 2009 when we grew membership in Florida. Tim Holliday and Tim's wife, Raylene. Tim was my trustee campaign chair in 2013, and our CEO, Tom Ashley. Guys, thanks for all the conversations over all the years. To my other friends from Florida, you've always shown up. You've always made me feel special. You know the journey this has been. Thank you for being here. Last but not least, my wife, Susie. She's also my best friend, the best mother, the best Gigi. She's just the best. Y'all think I don't know that you keep asking me back just so you can hang out with her. But I know. Honey, thank you for being the best life partner a man could want. I love you. I don't really have the words to express how humbling it is to be standing here before you as your next president. When I look at our history and those that have served, I see giants in our industry, and me, I'm just a preacher's kid from a small town with a passion for what we do. There's many people to thank, too many to start calling names, but for those of you that have encouraged me over the years, I'm forever grateful. To the person that called me in July 2021 and said, "We need you," always in my heart. And to the governance committee that thought I was worthy of this role, again, I'm humbled. All of us have our why. Mine is very simple, and it comes from the life experience of the sudden death of my grandfather when I was 3 years old. He was only 54 and died with no life insurance. Now, that didn't mean much to me then, but growing up, I remember many times hearing my dad talk about how humiliating it was for him to go to the bank and have to borrow the money to bury his father. Later in life, I recognized how hard it was for my grandmother to make ends meet, watching her work as a waitress in the local cafe and doing odd jobs for others to make extra money. As I grew older, Dad would point out with me in pointed conversations that when I had a family, how important it was to protect them with life insurance. The sudden loss of his dad was something he never got over, and the frustration created for him seeing his mother left penniless compounded that. As I started thinking about a career, it came to the point I realized this is what I wanted to do, and just a few days after my 20th birthday, a friend of my dad's gave me a chance. I never looked back. I didn't have enough sense to realize a 20-year-old kid had little chance of making it, but I had a story to tell, and it was real. I remember my first NAIFA meeting in 1981. The guest speaker was Art Ginn. Some of you old New York life agents might know that name, but he was the local New York life agent in Palatka, Florida, where I grew up. His subject was ethical sales and always doing what was right for the client. He talked about our association and the great things it has done, and talked about the LUTC courses available that would help us better serve our clients. I recognized the need to belong to the association that was out there working on my behalf. I want to share a couple of stories with you that will demonstrate how valuable our services are and how important NAIFA is to our continuing ability to provide them. First, my dad. As a pastor, he never made much money. Many of us here pay more in taxes than he ever made in a given year. He would fit squarely in that group that is an ever-increasing underserved market. Our association provided federal testimony regarding industry reforms being discussed as a result of the 1905 Armstrong hearings. Our president at the time, Charles Scovell, was quoted as saying, "The most threatening phase of the incidental injury lies in the direction of well-meant but misguided legislation." Tomorrow, over 118 years later, we continue that fight as we travel to Capitol Hill, hoping to educate bureaucrats how the DOL fiduciary proposal, while possibly well-intentioned, is misguided in its application. Anyway, Dad was probably the best budgeter I've ever seen. You've heard people described as not having two nickels to rub together. Well, he did, but he knew where both nickels were all the time. When I entered the business, Dad had some life insurance, but nobody had ever really worked with him. And together, we were able to design a program that created security for my mother in the event of the unexpected, and he used annuities to set aside dollars for retirement. I remember in 2006, Dad had been ill, and the doctors told us the graduation to his heavenly reward was imminent. My hand was resting on his chest just hours later when he took his last breath. The loss was real. We were very close. And I knew the conversations, advice, and the little tidbits of wisdom he often shared would be no more. But something else I knew. I knew Mom was going to be okay. That time of sadness wasn't compounded by having to worry about her well-being. It's what I call the magic of what we do, what Ben Feldman described as turning pennies into dollars. Dad had simply budgeted dollars for permanent life insurance and annuities that created financial security for the love of his life, my mother. A cute story, many of you know I like to cook. I like seeing people enjoy food that I prepare. And sometimes I fantasize about owning a restaurant. I have no desire to work in one. I just want to own it and hang out and share my recipes. Shortly after Dad's death, I crafted a plan. I had the perfect concept for a new restaurant in Ocala, and I presented the idea to my mother. We'd move her to Ocala with us and name the restaurant Miss Annie's, which is what many people called her mother. I thought it was a no-brainer, and Mom didn't even have to think about it. Her response was immediate, and it went something like this: "I am not moving to Ocala and opening a restaurant. I'm just fine right where I am." What's the point? The point is, Dad left Mom with choices. She didn't have to do anything. Our planning left her feeling she was just fine right where she was. It's as simple as that. Those of us blessed to serve as advisors get to do good for others while doing well for ourselves. The service we provide would not exist as it does without NAIFA. We start out in this business, then we cross a bridge, and this business is in us. NAIFA was founded in 1890 by passionate local leaders that saw a need to unite. They considered advising a noble thing and felt the needs of the client should always come first because it's simply the right thing to do. They desired that advisors would be viewed not as salesmen, but as consultants and educators. And that's why I'm so excited about our partnership with Life Happens. From the beginning, NAIFA sought a marketplace where educated and professional agents with enlightened and ethical standards prevailed. And by 1895, we had managed to get many states and companies to enact anti-rebating practices. Probably our most monumental accomplishment was in 1913 when Edward Wood secured an audience with President Woodrow Wilson and made the case for the favorable tax treatment of life insurance. We fought that battle again in 1935 and 1986, and keep an eye on it all the time. Never forget we're dealing with a government that views money they let you keep and not tax as an expenditure. In 1914, 4 men, including Mr. Woods and John Newton Russell, were appointed to work actively on the development of a broad-based professional course of study for life insurance professionals. They had conversations with Dr. Solomon Hubner that led to our executive committee approving the underwriting of the book, Life Insurance, a Textbook. Edward Woods wrote a personal check to the publisher for $10,000 to guarantee its production. That's the equivalent of over $300,000 today. In 1927, NAIFA created the American College of Life Underwriters, which would later be renamed the American College. I bet a bunch of y'all are out there right now saying, dang, I didn't know that. In 1928, NAIFA held the first commencement of chartered life underwriter graduates and adopted a resolution creating the $1 Million Roundtable. The first CLU graduates created the Society of Financial Service Professionals, and how fitting that almost after 100 years, we've merged in an effort to make both associations stronger. We've influenced legislation creating retirement plans for consumers, and we've had victories from health insurance funding and taxation to tax classifications and government overreach affecting advisors and consumer alike. We gave birth to AALU, Gamma, AHIA, and others. Terry Headley said, "We drank from wells we did not dig." In the January board meeting, I will ask the board to adopt a resolution creating the NAIFA Hall of Fame, and our inaugural induction will be at our NAIFA NLC Apex meeting in September in Arizona. No other association has influenced financial services to the level that we have, but now it's in our hands. It's ours to care for. In 2002, my dear friend Vinny Mazurko called. He said the magic words, "We need you." Circumstances dictated that someone stepped directly in as president of our local chapter in Ocala. I was a content, past local chapter president, and service at the state or national level wasn't something I'd ever thought about. Over the next 9 years, he kept nudging me to the next level. Without my dad's influence, I would not be in this business. And without Vinny's influence and encouragement, I would not be standing here before you today. In 2011, he suggested I run for national trustee and volunteered to manage my campaign. Susie and I ran across a photo the other day dated September the 12th, 2011. We were in the Florida suite, and Vinny was going over appointments. You guys were there too. 2 days later, just after entering Reagan National to fly home, ran right into him. I could take you to that exact spot at Reagan National. He said, "We need to get together in the next few days to debrief and prepare for 2013. I just looked at him. I said, "Vinny, I love you. Thanks for everything." I wish I could imitate his New York Italian accent, but I can't. You can listen to me and tell I can't do New York Italian. Vinny was a New York Italian, just an electric guy. He looked at me and said, "Back at you, don't worry about it. I'm glad you're willing to serve. We need you. Now you go be you." Only God knew those were the last words we'd ever share. Just 7 days later, out of the blue, we're in the house in the kitchen, and Courtney said, "Dad, did something happen to Mr. Vinny?" What? Well, Vincent, his son, had just posted, "R.I.P. Dad." Moments later, we learned he had just been killed in an automobile accident. Vinny and Sue Ann's home was only 5 minutes from ours, and upon arrival, we entered the saddest atmosphere I've ever witnessed. Their son Jules was a classmate of Will's and had received his college acceptance letter that day. He never got to share it with his dad. I was standing only a few feet from Sue Ann when I witnessed something I'll never forget. Jules had his letter in hand, looking at it. So all of a sudden he looked and said, "Mom, what about college?" Without hesitation, Sue Ann lifted her head, looked him in the eye, and said these 7 words, "It's okay. Dad took care of it." In 7 words, she summed up what we do. Sue Ann was a full-time mom. She didn't have to rush out and get a job. She didn't have to sell their brand new forever home. They had 2 sons in college and 2 attending private high school, and nothing changed. All because Dad took care of it. Be it untimely death, disability, natural disasters, illness, or maybe just time to enjoy retirement. We enable moms, dads, and business owners everywhere to say, "It's okay. It's taken care of." I hope you never underestimate the service you provide your clients, our industry, and our country through your service to NAIFA. NAIFA needs you. Our industry needs NAIFA, and our clients need this industry and us. We provide cash when everyone else is asking for it. And every morning when you look in the mirror, know you're looking at someone that makes a difference. Let's pull together to keep priming the wells Terry Headley talked about. But we need your very best effort. And I want to leave you with these words from my friend Vinny. "I'm glad you're willing to serve, but we need you. Now you go be you, and let's get this done." Thank you, and God bless.